was one of the bloodiest days in Wall Street history.
Shares plummeted 31%.
Tech stocks led Friday's fierce sell-off.
This is really a great wake-up call.
Millions of nervous investors following the huge drop on Friday. The Dow Jones...
Enron was especially a big deal by the end of the year 2000 because by then most internet companies had already begun to fall and everybody on Wall Street was looking for the next big thing. And here you had Enron, which appeared to be this shining star of a new economy company. Its stock price went up 90% in the year 2000 and had gone up over 50% the year before that. It was an it stock on Wall Street, one of those companies that can seemingly do no wrong.
Well, you all did it again. Enron was just recently chosen again for the 6th year in a row in the Most Admired Company survey by Fortune magazine as the most innovative company in America. Well deserved, well deserved.
The sales pitch still sounded good, but one investor saw something in Enron's numbers that the stock analysts had missed.
Jim Chanos mentioned to me that I should take a closer look at Enron's financial statements, and it wasn't clear from Enron's financial statements that there was fraud here, but what was clear is that something didn't add up.
In March 2001, Bethany McLean, a reporter with Fortune magazine, first raised questions about Enron's financial condition. She asked a simple question in the article that no one could seem to answer. How exactly does Enron make its money?
She called up and started asking some very, very specific questions about accounting treatment on things. I am not an accountant, and I could not answer them.
The story I ran was actually pretty meek. The title was, "Is Enron Overpriced?" But in the end, I couldn't prove that it was anything more than an overvalued stock.
When Bethany McLean at Fortune started analyzing cash flows, and she had this wonderful article saying, take a look at first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and end of year cash flows. There's a reason she didn't invest in Enron, because the financials didn't make sense.
Andy Fastow was Enron's chief financial officer. His job was to cover up the fact that Enron was becoming a financial fantasy land.
Enron essentially was losing money on a cash basis year after year, and yet it was reporting profits. So it was defying the laws of financial gravity, and the way it was doing it was with something called structured finance. And the maestro of all that at Enron was Andy Fastow.
To please the boss, Fastow had to figure out a way to keep the stock price up by hiding the fact that Enron was $30 billion in debt. Fastow created hundreds of special companies to perform a magic trick, prop up Enron's stock by making its debt disappear. To outside investors, it looked like cash was coming in the door. In fact, Enron was just stashing its debt in Fastow's companies where investors couldn't see it.
Is it your contention that you knew of it and it was appropriate?
Arthur Andersen and our lawyers had taken a very hard look at this structure, and they believed it was appropriate.
Skilling, Lay, and the Enron board had signed off on Fastow's LJM funds. They saw the benefits of letting Fastow do deals with himself. With a prospect of returns that would exceed 2,000%, 96 individual bankers invested in LJM, and America's major banks put up as much as $25 million each.
It's sort of a who's who of Wall Street. J.P. Morgan Chase, CS First Boston, Citibank, Merrill Lynch, Deutsche Bank. These are some of the premier investment banks in the world.
To quote Lenin, they were the investment bankers' useful idiots.
As disturbing as Enron's own misconduct is the growing evidence that leading U.S. financial institutions not only took part in Enron's deceptive practices, but at times designed, advanced, and profited from them.
The Enron fraud is the story of synergistic corruption. There are supposed to be checks and balances in the system. The lawyers are supposed to say no. The accountants are supposed to say no. The bankers are supposed to say no, but no one who was supposed to say no said no. They all took their share of the money from the fraud and put it in their pockets.
Enron paid its advisors well. In 2001, the accounting firm Arthur Andersen received $1 million a week. Enron's law firm, Vinson & Elkins, did nearly as well.
They were all being paid, and as long as Enron continued, they received their fees. They were a part of the process. So it's hard now to say, oh, we didn't know anything.
Had we known then what we know now about Enron's practices, we would not have engaged in these transactions with Enron.
The facts that we now have come to light about Enron, however, were not known at the time.
I believe that the Citigroup professionals involved with these transactions acted in good faith.
I'd like you here to look at one Citi email, Exhibit 333I.
The email trail here is all too lurid. Oh, for instance, one email I remember where the banker writes, Enron loves these deals. They produce cash, but they don't have to show the debt on the balance sheet. Now, a high school student can figure out that the banks were all knowing participants in this wrongdoing.
Mr. Martin, you've testified here today that there was no guarantee, and you said that under oath. Here's a document saying that the head of your whole division here was going to confirm that understanding.
One of the things that was always a strange occurrence at Enron was for weeks before a quarterly report, we would be under the impression that we weren't going to make our numbers. But then somehow miraculously, we always made the numbers. But then a question was asked to Tom White, how is it that we made the numbers? And his answer was one word, California.
California, here we come. The first clues to Enron's new strategy hit California with a jolt.
It started at noon, rolling across the state. Sacramento, San Francisco, Beverly Hills, Long Beach, San Diego.
26,000 miles of California power lines, enough to circle the earth. But for the second day in a row, not enough electricity for America's largest state and the world's 6th largest economy.
The Bay Area got hit by not one, but 2 rolling blackouts.
We only need 28,000 to 30,000 megawatts in December. We have an installed capacity in California at the time of 45,000 megawatts. Plenty of power to meet our electric demand. Of course, we had blackouts in December. I knew that there was illegality going on. I could feel it, I could smell it, I could sense it, and there was no other explanation. Because the numbers just didn't add up. We had enough power in California. It was never about lack of supply.
California was selected by Enron as the prime place to experiment with this new concept of deregulated electricity.
California's deregulated system was a bizarre compromise between legislators and free market advocates. The rules were complicated and hard to follow. Inside Enron, California's system was little more than a joke. And once in place, Enron made sure that the joke would be on California.
I was told that a good trader is a creative trader, and a creative trader is a trader that can find arbitrage opportunities.
One of those opportunities was called Ricochet.
I'll see you guys. I'm taking mine to the desert.
In the midst of the energy shortages, Enron traders started to export power out of the state. When prices soared, they brought it back in.
So we fucking export like a motherfucker. You're getting rich. Trying to.
We know all of the California imports. We know all of the California load.
We're getting pretty spoiled on this money.
You said you were getting a little scared. We're making a little too much, and I tend to agree with
you. These are 2 traders, Traders. This is what they say. What we did was overbook the transmission line we had the rights on and said to California utilities, if you want to use the line, pay us. By the time they agreed to meet our price, rolling blackouts had already hit California, and the price for electricity went through the roof. Did you have any knowledge that this was happening?
The only thing that I'm aware of, Senator, is there was a difference of opinion on the rules of the independent system operator. It was just set up. The rules weren't quite clear.
We have traders here from Enron who were saying they did something wrong, but you don't see anything wrong.
Traders soon discovered that by shutting down power plants, they could create artificial shortages that would push prices even higher.
Hey, this is David up at Enron. There's not much demand for power at all, and if we shut it down, could you bring it back up in 3 or 4 hours? Oh, yeah. What?
These strategies made some money for Enron, but the real money was made by betting that the price of energy would go up. It did, and the West Coast traders made nearly $2 billion for Enron.
We're talking about a commodity that normally trades in the $35 to $45 range. High prices are when it gets in the 50s or $1,000. I was never comfortable on the trading floor at Enron. And if I had questions, I didn't ask them because I didn't want to know the answer. I didn't want confirmed what I suspected might be true. That what I was doing was, in fact, unseemly, or was at least unethical, if not worse.
Why did the traders do what they did? Was it their multi-million-dollar bonuses? Or had Enron found a way to exploit the darker side of human behavior?
It's the fucking coolest thing I've done in a long time. Yeah. Holy fuck, yeah. You gotta love the West. Oh.
During the height of Wednesday's blackout, fire crews had to free people trapped in elevators.
All the money you guys stole from those poor grandmothers of California? Yeah, Grandma Millie, man.
Yeah, they're out there having fun in the warm California suburbs.
We must continue. Go on, please.
Tonight, I'm declaring a state of emergency in California to give the state the authority and the resources to keep the lights on in California.
I'm going to get the $9 billion back that Enron, Dynergy, and Reliant stole from us and get it back to you.
Despite what the people in California think, Enron's making money despite California, not because of California.
The year-long energy crisis would cost the state of California $30 billion.
Oh, I can't help myself. You know what the difference is between the state of California and the Titanic? At least when the Titanic went down, the lights were on.
Consumers in California are angry, and they should be. And if we had anything to do with this, then we are the stupidest people in the world.
I work for an organization. Every day people call saying they can't pay their electricity bill.
Millions of dollars off of California. Get out of here.
Now, at the time, we didn't understand really why he was so concerned, but now we do. The fact is that Kenley was out here because he understood that Enron itself was a house of cards. And if deregulation were to collapse, that Enron itself would collapse.